as priests and priestesses of the African tradition, we recognize one very important thing. One thing that was missing in the life of the African American people. They do not have their culture. And if you do not have your culture, that means that you do not know how to get married. You will follow the rules of some other people or some other tradition. Most African Americans, whatever you do it because of the way that the Europeans do things. But the Europeans do things among themselves in different ways. The Polish people do things differently from the English people. If you've ever been to a Polish wedding, then you will know that it is quite a different thing from a Jewish wedding. Or if you have ever been to a Japanese wedding, it is quite a different thing from an English wedding. And so each people have their own customs and their own traditions. And that is what gives them power. The African American people have watched many other people come to America, and they advance fast and quickly, and they have more power, and they become financially more stable than we are. Why is this? Why is it that we continue to remain the poorest of the American people? Today, maybe about 30 years ago, many Hispanics came to America. They have progressed rapidly. The Cuban people came here maybe 10, 15 years ago, and they're doing marvelously well, particularly in Florida. If you get a chance to go to Miami, you will see all of the skyscrapers, boulevards, and businesses which the Cuban people who came here very recently. And they have factories where they produce all kinds of clothes and underwear and shoes, all these things. If you go to Los Angeles, California, you are going to see everywhere Korean writing. The Koreans have come. And they have moved rapidly ahead, and they have many businesses and shopping malls everywhere. And all over the city of Los Angeles there is writing and signs in Korean. Why is it that the African Americans do not have these avenues of businesses? Whole neighborhoods full of businesses. And why is it that our writing and our language is not everywhere in our neighborhoods? And why is it that when we have a marriage ceremony, we do not follow the traditions of our ancestors? The Japanese people have traditional Japanese weddings, and they eat traditional Japanese food at those weddings. And they sing Japanese songs at those weddings. And after the wedding is over and everything is completed, then they go and worship their ancestors. Everything is very Japanese. And they are very influential and powerful people. And the Chinese have been here a very long time, and they even have Chinatowns. If you've been to the one in San Francisco, for example, blocks and blocks and blocks of Chinese businesses and homes and stores and shops. And they own them all, and it's a very wealthy, and it's a very progressive neighborhood. And so we have to then begin to think. We have gotten a lot of money from the government, and that has not solved our problem. They have written civil rights and everything to write us that we are equal, and that has not solved our problem. And politically, we have had many men in powerful offices. Back in the 1880s, They had lieutenant governors, and they had senators and so forth, and this hasn't solved our problem, nor given us the power which we must have as a people. There is one thing which is missing, and that is our own customs. How many African holidays do we celebrate? None. And yet the Chinese people have a Chinese New Year, and they go out and they perform out in the streets, huh? And the Polish people have their Pulaski Day and a number of ceremonies, and the Jewish people have Yom Kippur, and they have Rosh Hashanah. Very high holidays. And yet, once again, the African American people, a huge population of people descended from Africa, celebrate nothing of their ancient customs and their ancient traditions. And so, that is why we come. It was necessary for the African American people to have leaders who knew and who can teach our own customs and our own traditions. The reason that all of the other nationalities in America are successful is that they have leaders who know their customs and their traditions. The African Americans are the only people whose leaders do not know who we are. They do not know our customs. They do not know our language. They do not know our holidays. And so, therefore, they cannot proceed and raise us to organize ourselves and to celebrate ourselves as an African people. That's a great misfortune. And so we have to remedy that. And that is why, beginning this year, this 1990, we are calling this the Year of the Culture.
Sure.
The Year of the Culture. And we have a plan. It is called the African Cultural Redemption Plan or Program. The African Cultural Redemption Program. So that by the end of this year, you will have been able to redeem your cultural soul, because you do have a special African soul. But that African soul is not being worshipped. It is not being in communion with its great source of power. And so as a people then, we continue on welfare. We continue to drop out of schools. Why is that? We continue to get PhDs on the other hand, and they cannot solve our problem. We have many highly educated people, and yet we continue to be, for the most part, the beggar race in America. We have to end this. In order to do that, we have to make some very, very radical changes, some very major changes in our lifestyle. And so, what is it that makes a people rich? What is it that makes a people economically sound and powerful? It is business and industry. It means that you have to produce something.